I'm going through these like things in my head.
Yeah.
And so it started for me kind of like hiding when I was like dealing with issues. And I know
Hmm.
people can relate to that because I'm not the only person that's done that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, I mean, cut to just like kind of years of me dealing with a few little things that later I realized like were chronic, but like little stressors, like having a little bit of like discoloration under my nails, or just kind of like, I don't know, like white stuff on my tongue. But and then psoriasis, which is a very obvious like
Right.
marker, distressor. And as I kind of it got worse and worse, and right before I met Laura, like maybe a year or two before, I started getting what was diagnosed as arthritis, and
Wow.
it turned into like there was a moment where I could barely walk because my feet were just like I couldn't step on my feet were on fire. And
Wow.
I mean, just my body was like so inflamed. I was having these pains. I was arthritic, literally. And like I was in my 30s, and
That's crazy.
I just was like, I guess this is just like what getting older is like. And that like it happened so quick. And thank God I met Laura, because I was like, I met Laura doing a play. And stop me if I'm just rambling here.
Yeah, it's okay. Go for it. No, go for it.
So essentially, I started basically what happened is the doctors were just like, oh, you have arthritis. Oh, you have this condition. Oh, so like they're putting me on like biologics for my psoriasis. And they're like, the arthritis I have is psoriatic arthritis. And
Hmm.
it's just like, okay, now you have this, you just have to deal with it the rest of your life. No one has ever along this journey mentioned anything about what I was eating, anything about like some of these things with like the discoloration of my nails, or like, why is my
Yeah.
stomach always messed up? Like, what, there's other things that I'm like, these have to be contributing, or like,
Yeah.
but no doctor ever took the time to say, like, when did this start? And tell me about like the snowball effect.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So you were seeing, the traditional Western medicine doctors. They were giving you the typical diagnosis, diagnose and treat with medication.
Yep.
And yet, this whole time, that was really all that you were getting was what's your symptom? Here's your diagnosis. Here's the medication for it. And then
Yeah.
that was it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so at that time, were you feeling like there's there's got to be something more? Like there's got to be this missing piece that nobody's really asking about or examining. Were you feeling that at all?
Well, I think it's just like it. Yeah, absolutely. I was like, I don't have time to go through this with my doctor. I don't have time to tell them like, okay, so like when I was this age, I got really sick and I took all these
Mm.
antibiotics. Because like initially what in hindsight I think happened and have found out is what happened is I got kind of like a weird virus when I was like in my 20s, early 20s,
Hmm.
like almost like when I was like 21, maybe 22. That, and then I was on like high doses of antibiotics
Oh, okay.
for like 2 weeks or 3 weeks. And that's when my gut got out of whack. And I let
Hmm.
that go forever. So I needed someone to help me investigate the
Gotcha.
past.
Gotcha. Yeah. So look back and see what had happened in your past that was now had built up and was now really, affecting you. I mean, to be a man in his 30s in the prime of his life, really being diagnosed with arthritis and feeling this intense pain all the time where you could barely walk. I mean, that's not normal, like that's
Ah,
we say these things about, oh well, that's just getting older, but it's really not. I mean, there's so many ways to age, more like a fine wine than a banana, right? So so yeah. So now fast forward to you meeting Laura. How did she help you kind of investigate or look into these different functional medicine principles to help you heal, to help you get better?
So I had been, so like, let me just back up just a little bit. So after doing all this research and kind of finding things out, and I live in LA, so there's a lot of like wellness talk and that going around. So I tried things where I was like, I'm just gonna like juice all the time,
Mm-hmm.
or like I've tried a few things, but none of that really helped me. Sorry if
Mm-hmm.
it's really loud for a second. So cut to me meeting Laura and her kind of being the first person that like I had ever met that really like understood this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And basically I was like, told her, I was like, I think I have a chronic yeast infection and I don't like my doctors have never entertained that idea,
Mm-hmm.
but I think that's what's happening. Is that weird? And she was like, no, that's not weird at all. Like that's like very common. Like like your gut is probably out of whack and you may have
Mm-hmm.
an overgrowth of something. For me, it was like candida. And like people, it's so frustrating because people say that like candida is not a real thing, but it's like,
Mm-hmm.
but it truly is. Like for it to really be overgrown in your body. Anyway, so that was what we've kind of found out was like causing all of my problems. And to have someone like Laura listen to me, tell me I'm not weird, and just be like, oh yeah, there's like, like there's things you can do yourself to like really help with this.
Yeah.
And she just kind of introduced me to like functional medicine and like the principles of it and what that means. But I'm not sure what you mean when you say the principles, like if you're talking about the 5 R's or like whatever it is. But for me, it was just that idea of truly understanding that what you put in your body, what you're doing to your body affects your body, and everything's connected, everything's
Mm-hmm.
related.
Yeah.
All the systems work together and they snowball. And like, yeah, so I don't know, I'm kind of rambling, but yeah, so meeting her, and Laura was a health coach.
Yeah. Yeah.
She had gone to the functional medicine coaching academy, and she knows this, and she practices what she preaches. Like she's like
Mm-hmm.
doesn't eat sugar, like she does all this stuff, and she's like, she has a very healthy, positive, great life to show for it.
Yeah. Yeah. She
Yeah.
definitely is an example of what it's like to um, walk the talk, basically. So when you finally figured out, okay, and Laura, you and Laura were working together and you finally figured out, okay, there are things that I can do to, to manage this candida overgrowth and to minimize the symptoms and of my arthritis or whatever. What kinds of thing, where did you start? Did you start with nutrition? Did you start with movement, supplements? Where did you start?
I started with like nutrition,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
because and I want to be clear, it's not like it was like the candida immediately caused like this to happen. It's just like
Mm-hmm.
the candida kind of was causing, I don't even know what actually it was, but the inflammation in my
Yeah.
body that I had not been dealing with for years,
Yeah.
it basically like sped up the process of having arthritis. Like
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
like there's that phrase inflammaging.
Right.
So like that idea of like inflammation literally just like speeding up your like it just speeds up the aging process.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that
I think there's this, and obviously we need inflammation because it does serve a purpose, but we don't want it to get out of whack and be chronic to the
right.
point where it is causing these types of issues. So, utilizing good or proper nutrition that's best for you, that may not look the same as what it is for somebody else because, we're all different people with different backgrounds and biologies and all of that. But, was there anything that you found particularly helpful for you to eat, to cut
So
out,
to
to add in, or?
yeah, so specifically, I mean, like Laura was that's the big thing that Laura and functional medicine did, is to really get me to focus on the gut and like how
Mm,
gut health is. Like
yeah,
it's really the key to so many things. And again, I'm not a doctor. I'm just like talking from my own experience.
right.
It's the
Yes,
key to
this
so
is
many
not
things.
medical advice.
This is not medical advice. Um, yeah, I have to say that every 5 minutes on the podcast.
Yeah, I know.
But because I get excited about like supplements and stuff. But so literally just like I sugar, like I had never cut sugar. I had never really truly cut sugar out of my diet.
Mm-hmm.
And cutting sugar out cold turkey, hardcore. I allowed myself a little bit of like fruit in this process,
Right.
natural fruit, but anything that had any added sugar at all, I
Mm-hmm.
cut out. The first time I did it, I probably did. I mean, I just turned to something like the Whole30 and kind of followed like
Mm-hmm.
Whole30.
Mm-hmm.
But what I realized that helped me was that cutting sugar out of my diet for that long and removing sugar stopped whatever was going on in my body. And
Wow.
it literally, like, my nails cleared up, my brain fog cleared, my arthritis went away. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we're talking like miraculous changes that happened. I don't want to say overnight, but happened very quickly
Mm-hmm.
by
Mm-hmm.
changing the diet. And I have to admit, I'm not that good because I haven't really researched if it, because there's like the main stressors like gluten
Right.
or sugar or whatever it is. So I just kind of cut them all out.
Mm-hmm.
And but yeah, for me it's the sugar. My stomach, my gut can get easily out of line, out of balance. And when I eat sugar, it just triggers that. And like, yeah, it triggered all these things, but I was able to reverse it and pull it back by,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. And I think, for some people, that will really be a huge challenge for them, maybe for many people, because sugar is such a huge part of everything. I mean, all the foods, even, obviously there's just natural sugars, like you said, in fruits and things like that. But, for just walking up and down the grocery aisles and just knowing and understanding how much is in our food and what's added and even all the dang names for sugar. I mean, just knowing that it's not just going to say sugar on the label, it's going to say
Right.
dextrose or maltodextrin or whatever it is. So yeah, so that certainly will be a challenge, but I think it also provides people with some hope that there is something they can do. There's many things that they could do. This is just one thing that you've implemented and that could work for someone else.
I just
Um,
feel like I feel like for me, diet, like starting with your diet, and I hate the term diet because it's not about limiting the amount of food you eat.
right.
It's just limiting like what you're eating. Like in terms of I had to be pretty intense and be like, okay, I don't drink sodas. I don't do fast food. I don't.
Hmm.
And I realized that there's a bit of like, there's some privilege in that. Like, I don't
Hmm.
like have to eat fast food. Like, but it's such a shame that it's not easier to get access to things. But when you commit to these, you can affordably find foods you can eat at the
Yeah.
grocery store. Don't even go into the center of the grocery store. Stay on the edges.
Yep.
And and then when you cut this out for a little bit and you eat a freaking blueberry, you're
Yeah.
gonna you're gonna be like, damn, that is better. That tastes better than a Skittle.
Yep. Because yeah, it just is so sweet and there's just multiple flavors, even in that one tiny little blueberry.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. You've mentioned brain fog a couple of times, and that one kind of sticks out to me a lot because I think being a mom and, especially being a working mom and, having two young kids and being pulled in all different directions, there's this
You don't look
misconception.
like you have kids right now.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. Um, there is this misconception that as a mom, you're just gonna have that brain fog. Like it's just gonna, it's just, you're just going to be so busy and you're going to be exhausted all the time and you're not going to be able to think clearly. And, you have mom brain and, there's no way to deal with that. And so, what, tell me what the difference is or how you felt with brain fog versus how you feel now with a clearer head and being able to, kind of think
Yeah,
clearly.
I mean, because don't get me wrong, I'm still stressed out and like juggling a lot. Like, like
Yeah,
we're still like those things are still there, but the brain
right.
fog is literally just kind of like, I mean, it's literally kind of just like you're looking through a fog and like you're thinking through a fog. There's just like this, like I always described it as kind of just like a film over everything, including
Mm-hmm.
like your insides. Like you can just feel this film over your brain. It's like you almost feel like you're running like a low grade fever all the time, even though you're not.
Yeah.
It's just, and like the difference is so slight, but it's profound. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
like you can just handle being in this. I would imagine you can handle the stressors more when you're not in that brain foggy state. I mean, I don't really know
Mm-hmm.
if that's answering
Yeah.
the question, but like you just know when you're not, when you don't
Yeah.
have brain fog.
Yeah. And then you're like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. I don't want to go back to that. Like, how do I stay here in this unfoggy, unfilmy place? So
Yeah, it's just
yeah.
clarity, and it's clarity, and it's not the same as like depression or anything. It's not like the mental. It's literally like the physical aspect of it that's happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. So now thinking about, the people out there who are like, I'm on the fence. I don't know if I want to see a health coach, or I don't know if I want to see a functional nutritionist, or I don't know if I want to see a functional medicine doctor. What would you say to those people?
I would just say that like I get it. I get that it seems uh like an extravagance, or that I get that like you don't think people that someone can help you. Like I
Mm-hmm.
understand that feeling because I've like been there. But
Mm-hmm.
so I would say that first, but then I would just say the feeling of like getting your life back, so to speak, or just like the first time you kind of like rid yourself of this awful symptom that you have, it literally is like you, I mean, I've moved on from it because it's been years now, but I used to have
Mm-hmm.
this pain right here that would just buzz,
Mm, that's
but
wow.
like all night, like literally I couldn't sleep because it was just like, and like the first
Wow.
time that I would, and it was like all through here, but it was just like this bone. And then when I first was like, oh my God, that's like, I don't have this pain there. It was like, I'm crying. It's like,
Wow.
so I want people to know that there is hope. Like it sounds so dramatic, but it's so
Yeah.
true.
Yeah. Yeah.
So true. So like,
Absolutely.
I think it's just like, no one, like, it's kind of like having a therapist. It's like the coach helps you, walks you through, lets you ask the dumb questions, holds your hand. Like that's what a coach does. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like I would be lucky to have a coach like you. I'm not trying to be salesy here, but because you're so clearly like intuitive and compassionate, I can tell. And
Thank
I
you.
I feel like you could probably handle people's shit, you know? Truthfully, because that's like what part of the business, that's part of what you have to do.
Yeah.
So I would just
Yeah.
say like take the time, it's worth it. Like even if you just do it for a little bit to experience what it's like
Mm-hmm.
and see those changes. But I don't know, it's so important. I have coaches for everything.
Mm.
I have acting coaches. I like, I go to people to be like, help me,
Right.
please.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
And it's
Well, thank
yeah.
you for those kind words. I appreciate what you had to say. And I definitely am excited to share what you have, your story with those out there who really need to, they really need to hear from a real person who has been there and done that. So thank you so much, Clayton, for your time. I really
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. And thank you, everyone, for watching. I will see you next time on Coach Chrysler's Convos.